Bitcoin just exploded past $97,000. And this isn't just another price pump. This is the setup for something much bigger. Let me explain what's actually happening in the crypto market right now and why this could be the beginning of Bitcoin's next massive rally. Yesterday, Bitcoin surged above $97,000, marking a massive rebound after weeks of consolidation. The price jumped over 4% in just 24 hours, and institutional investors are piling in at record levels. This is the kind of move that could push Bitcoin toward the psychological $100,000 barrier everyone's been talking about. So what triggered this rally? Three major factors came together at exactly the right time. First, U.S. inflation data. The December Consumer Price Index came in at 2.7% year over year, exactly where economists expected. That might not sound exciting, but here's why it matters. For months, investors have been terrified that the Federal Reserve would keep raising interest rates to fight inflation. High rates are terrible for Bitcoin because they make safer investments like Treasury bonds more attractive. But when inflation stays stable like this, it signals the Fed might actually start cutting rates later this year. Lower rates mean more money flowing into risky assets like Bitcoin. Second, institutional buying through Bitcoin ETFs. These are exchange-traded funds that let big investors and regular people buy Bitcoin without actually owning the cryptocurrency directly. In the past week, Bitcoin ETFs recorded their strongest inflows since October. We're talking over $700 million flowing into these funds in just a few days. That's massive institutional demand. And it's not coming from retail investors gambling on meme coins. This is pension funds, hedge funds, and family offices allocating serious capital to Bitcoin. And third, Michael Saylor's company Strategy just announced they bought $1.25 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's 13,627 Bitcoin purchased in a single transaction. Saylor has become Bitcoin's biggest corporate evangelist. His company now holds more Bitcoin than any other publicly traded firm on Earth. Every time he announces a new purchase, it sends a signal to the market that smart money is still accumulating. But here's what most people are missing. This rally isn't just about short-term price action. It's about a structural shift happening in the Bitcoin market right now. Look at the data from Santiment, a market research firm. They found that wallets holding between 100 and 10,000 Bitcoin have added nearly 32,700 Bitcoin since January 10th. These are what we call whales, the big players who move markets. Meanwhile, smaller retail wallets have been selling. This is actually the ideal setup for a bull market. When retail panics and sells while institutions quietly accumulate, it creates the foundation for explosive upside. Ethereum also joined the party, rising over 7% to $3,300. The overall crypto market cap hit $3.12 trillion, adding $27 billion in value almost overnight. This isn't just Bitcoin anymore. The entire crypto ecosystem is catching fire. Now let's talk about what's coming next, because there are some major catalysts on the horizon. First, there's a new crypto regulation bill moving through the U.S. Senate. Senators just released a draft that would create a clear regulatory framework for digital assets, including rules about which agencies have jurisdiction over crypto. For years, the industry has been stuck in legal limbo. Companies didn't know if they were dealing with the SEC, the CFTC, or both. This bill could finally bring clarity, and markets love clarity. Analysts at Fundstrat called the draft, quote, overall great progress, and said it's a solid tailwind for altcoins and crypto financial services companies in the U.S. If this bill passes, it opens the door for more institutional investment, because companies won't be terrified of getting sued anymore. Second, technical indicators are flashing bullish. Bitcoin is testing resistance around $98,000, which lines up with the 21-week moving average. This is a critical level that analysts watch closely. 10x Research put out a note saying, quote, with multiple weekly indicators still well below their overbought thresholds, we believe the rally has scope to extend further and ultimately push Bitcoin back above $100,000. Third, there's growing speculation about what happens if Bitcoin breaks through 100,000. That's a psychological barrier that's been looming over the market for months. Once it breaks, there's not much resistance until you hit 110,000 or even 120,000. The Fear and Greed Index, which measures market sentiment, is climbing away from extreme fear and toward optimism. That's exactly the environment where explosive rallies happen. But let's be real about the risks, because Bitcoin doesn't move in a straight line. Right now, Bitcoin is encountering resistance around 98,000. If it can't break through, we could see a pullback to 91 or 92,000. That's still healthy consolidation, but it would slow the momentum. There's also macro uncertainty. A U.S. Supreme Court ruling is coming soon on President Trump's tariff policies. Depending on how that goes, it could inject volatility across all markets, including crypto. Some analysts think the court will strike down the tariffs, which would force the U.S. Treasury to refund as much as $140 billion to importers. That kind of money flooding back into the economy could create wild swings in Bitcoin. And then there's the ongoing debate about whether Bitcoin's rally is sustainable or just another speculative bubble. Critics point out that Bitcoin still doesn't have massive real-world utility beyond being a store of value and a hedge against inflation. Supporters counter that being digital gold is the utility, especially as governments keep printing money and debasing their currencies. Here's my take. Bitcoin is in a strong position right now. Institutional demand is real. The macroeconomic environment is improving. Regulatory clarity is coming. And the technical setup looks bullish. Does that guarantee Bitcoin hits 100,000? No. Markets are unpredictable, but the pieces are in place for a serious run. If you're thinking about Bitcoin, here's what you need to know. This is a volatile asset. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose. Don't FOMO into the top of a pump. And definitely don't take financial advice from a YouTube video. Do your own research, understand what you're buying, and have a plan for both gains and losses. But if Bitcoin does break through 100,000, we're talking about a potential surge toward new all-time highs. And that would change the entire narrative around crypto heading into the rest of 2026. What do you think? Is Bitcoin heading to 100,000 or are we due for a correction? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you want daily updates on crypto, stocks, and the economy, smash that subscribe button. We're covering all the biggest financial stories as they happen. See you in the next one.